Inside Heinz Field, I'm Missi Matthews with Mike Prisuta. Welcome to another edition of Training Camp Live presented by FedEx. We are exactly 2 weeks away from the Steelers' Week 1 regular season game on the road, Monday Night Football against the New York Football Giants. Still business to finish here at Heinz Field, Mike, as training camp is slowly winding down. It felt like it took forever to get us here, and just like that, it's almost over.
This is really happening, isn't it? I mean, you said 2 weeks until a game that counts, and I think a lot of us are probably starting to wrap our heads around the fact that the season is going to happen. There's been so much uncertainty and so much doubt, but once you get to the training camp part of the preparation here at Heinz Field every day, Bud Dupree expressing that thought among others today, Missi, that yeah, this is going to happen, and they're going to do their best to be ready for it. It's an exciting time, believe it or not. I'm not sure, or at least I wasn't sure I would ever get to that point. A couple, 3 months ago, I definitely wasn't sure, but here we are, and September 14th is looming.
All right, as you can see, the players are starting to take the field here at Heinz Field. Practice scheduled to start around 1:30. Looks like the pads are on. They got the helmets ready to go. A moment ago, we saw number 15. He is a new addition to the Steelers roster, DeAndre Tompkins, another wide receiver, number 15. We saw him just a bit ago. There's Al Villanueva. We saw Marquise Pouncey walking out as well. There is TJ Watt. We heard from his counterpart, Bud Dupree, so we'll get a chance to talk about that in a little bit. Tunch and Wolf are also on hand. We'll check in with them in just a little bit. But here we are, as you said, getting ready to go. And Dave DeCastro is somebody that we definitely want to see if he is here or not here. And also, I know we overstated sometimes Prisuta, but how he's dressed or if he is going to practice, because he did leave Friday night's practice early. But there is somebody, Kevin Dotson, the rookie offensive lineman, who has dealt with his fair share of injuries and missing time during a very important training camp for him. But on Friday night, he got to see some action.
Yeah, back involved and, kind of thrown into the deep end of the pool. Mike Tomlin talked about David DeCastro leaving practice early Friday night and would only go as far as to say that DeCastro was being evaluated, and all of a sudden Kevin Dotson winds up in the game, so to speak. And it's interesting when you think back to what Sean Surratt, the offensive line coach, had to say during his recent Zoom session. All that time missed in the preseason, the OTAs, the mini camps all wiped off the board by the pandemic. Sean Surratt implied that Kevin Dotson would have gotten a look at that left guard position, which now seems to be Matt Filer's, as Zach Banner and Chukwuma Okorafor continue to fight it out at right tackle. But you never know what kind of twists and turns are going to be forthcoming. And for the time being, at least, Kevin Dotson playing some guard for the Steelers as a rookie.
And usually we do see the entire O-line come out together. Of course, Al's now talking to Minkah Fitzpatrick, James Conner. We'll talk about James and Ben Roethlisberger in just a little bit. But I keep turning around Prisuta, and I'm not seeing a 66 out here. I'm not seeing anybody that even looks like him, wearing the T-shirt and the shorts. So we will have to continue to keep our eye on.
And the hat.
And a hat,
and
yes, of course. Well, now that's getting very detailed.
Well, this is how the practice reports have rolled.
That's true.
In the effort to remain consistent and give people something that they can count on, when Dave DeCastro is not practicing, if he's here,
that's what he typically looks like.
We're going to tell you what he looks like.
All right, just a recap from Friday night as well. We mentioned Dave DeCastro left early. Coach Tomlin didn't have a lot of information saying he was evaluated. We'll have to catch up with Coach after practice today on that. Not practicing, though, on Friday, Ryan Switzer, Vance McDonald, Chris Wormley, Cam Canada, and Terrell Edmonds was dressed but was considered limited according to the poll report. So those are some other guys that we're going to want to keep an eye out on for today.
Absolutely. And, Cam Canada is the long snapper. Mike Tomlin has mentioned, specifically in the wake of Canada's injury, that they had not identified a backup long snapper, and then lo and behold, another long snapper was brought into the mix. So stay tuned there, too. Most of the time you only have one, but you always need one. And this year, given all the circumstances and how different everything is, maybe this is a year where you have another one on the practice squad just in case.
There's Stephon Tuitt. We've heard from him. We've heard from Cam Hayward, a lot of those leaders as well. And also Anthony McFarland. He was able to practice on Friday, the rookie running back, but I am told that he is not going to be able to go today. So that was somebody who was dealing with the concussion protocol. No official word as why, but it looks like number 26 will not be going today at practice in terms of wearing pads. But there is Ryan Switzer. You just quickly saw there. Chris Wormley also wearing his pads. He's dealt with 2 different injuries. So maybe this is a good step for him in terms of getting on that moving train with a new team, Mike.
Very good step for him. This defensive line is showing a little more depth, I think, than maybe a lot of people thought it was going to have coming into training camp. Of course, you were on the big Dan McCullers train before camp even started. You were beating that drum and singing that song. And lo and behold, Dan McCullers is a guy that people are talking about as maybe being a more impactful player this year than he's ever been in his tenure with the Steelers. Now, I don't think that would translate as you get a look at Canada there. Looks like he's enjoying himself. Got a little pinch between the cheek and gum there. Dan McCullers, if he can just get some pressure up the middle, pressure inside, make the quarterback move a little bit. You don't necessarily have to get a sack or even a pass defense, but get your hands up, get in his face, and impact the play that way. That can go a long way. And you've got a second-year guy in Isaiah Buggs, as we're talking about, backup defensive lineman Chris Wormley, an experienced guy that came over in trade from the Ravens, and Henry Mondo, a guy who was with the Steelers last year in training camp and a practice squad guy. There are some options on that D-line.
All right, and there is Tom Bradley and Terrell Edmonds. As we said, he was dressed on Friday but was considered limited according to the practice report. And that is somebody that I think they really want to see take a step this year, Mike. Minkah Fitzpatrick is going to have a full year now with the Steelers defense. Same for Devin Bush. And that is maybe one of the pieces in terms of returning this defense that some people may have questions or had thoughts about. But he, according to everybody, is really ready to take that step. And there's always a good sign when your franchise quarterback, number 7, looks like he's ready to go as well. Again, we have only seen Ben take one day off since we have been allowed in here from Heinz Field and have been able to broadcast this show. So pretty remarkable coming off the surgery, the career-threatening incident that he had against the Seattle Seahawks, and to see him be able to rebound like this.
Yeah, and he took that day off, I think, to film that documentary, right? That was,
no, I don't think that's how
that
it
wasn't
worked.
what it was for. No, from all accounts, I mean, everybody that's talked about, and everybody's been asked about Ben Roethlisberger.
Everybody.
Understandably so. Vance McDonald said it best, and I think I'm remembering this word for word. I'm not afraid to say it. As he goes, we go. And it's going to take more than number 7, Missi, but it's going to take number 7 first and foremost. So the way he's gone about his job, and the fact that they've been able to schedule him not as an aging quarterback coming off of elbow surgery, but as Ben Roethlisberger, I think really bodes well. Is that Randy Fichtner?
That is offensive coordinator Randy
down?
Fichtner.
I don't know who anybody is half the time because everybody's so wrapped up. That is a very stylish you don't call that a mask, right? There's the thing that wraps around your head and neck. There's a word for that now.
I am not hip enough to know what it is called.
Oh, come on. You're the hippest person I know. You're supposed to know all this stuff.
If somebody could tell me in my ear what that's called, I would appreciate it because I don't know.
A gator. Go Gators. See the guy on the right. Now that's a mask.
That is Matt Canada.
The guy on the left, Fichtner. I don't know what that is, but it is that's making a statement.
Okay, now sticking with the Steelers.
So you got the ears going. You're keeping the hat on. You got support in the back. You got your neck covered.
To be fair, I will say I have the same gator mask, whatever we would like to call it, that Randy has, and I have trouble keeping it up. Mine always falls down, so maybe that is what I need to do in order to keep it up from falling down off of my face.
Yeah. Now the only thing he's got to pull it down. I don't know if he actually has to do that to speak, because most of the time I speak in my mask, and I am as coherent as I am any other time.
Okay, back to football. We have talked so much about rookie wide receiver Chase Claypool. So have those two guys, head coach
They're
Mike
talking
Tomlin,
about him right now. He's pointing at
Joe
that
Hayden.
Throw it to Chase here on 3rd down.
And our Steelers Nation Unite account asked fans for this week, who would you like our camera to help spot And, of course, as you can imagine, Prisuta, there was a lot of requests for Chase Claypool. Ted, you get the shout-out for one of the tweets that asked for Chase Claypool, so we will try to find him down on the field.
Ted Mendenhall, I think he's in relation.
I do not know. But Ted is, I feel like he tweets us often, so we appreciate that, Ted. But in terms of Chase Claypool, we have talked about a lot of great things. There he is, number 11.
Throw it to me, I'm open.
That he has done. He was very humble. I had a chance to go one-on-one with him last week. Maybe he's trying to signal you. He knows he's on camera. Yeah, so he's saying, come on, Prisuta.
You're not going to throw
it
it
to
me.
here.
I'm just going to walk over here. What an impression he's made, right? I mean, one of the themes or continuing storylines of camp, and it started – that first day as we get ready to close out the Heinz Field portion here this week, that the first practice in pads, the fade from Ben Roethlisberger to Chase Claypool over Joe Hayden. I know I've talked about this a lot on these programs. People are probably tired of hearing me talk about it, but the symbolism was inescapable, right? You draft this guy for a reason, and you knew he had a certain physical skill set that you don't get a chance to acquire every year, and you put it to use right away and kind of see it all come to fruition right in front of your very eyes. It got things off to a great start. I found it interesting that Keith Butler, the defensive coordinator, when talking about Claypool, Missi, he mentioned that first blush he thought Claypool had the brick hands. And then Claypool really picked it up, and it seems to me at least that he really started to pick it up when the pads came on, if Butler's assessment of brick hands was correct. I wasn't here prior to that, the pads coming on, so I couldn't speak to that, but you know, Mike Tomlin talked about, hey, no preseason games this year. You better be a practice player if you want to be a game day player, and Chase Claypool has been that.
Sticking with wide receivers, Deontay Johnson also has his pads on. He's ready to go for today. He's dealt with some injuries as well and has missed some time. The Steelers have signed a few wide receivers recently, as we had said, but this is a group that I think is going to be interesting to see them fighting for positions and just how many you can keep on the 53 and on the extended practice squad, because there are a lot of guys who have very important jobs and who are making a case snapping maybe?
The more you can do, position flexibility. Chase Claypool snapping and Duck Hodges punting. That receiver group is fascinating because I think you have such a diverse group of skill sets there. You know, Claypool's the big, fast, tall guy. He can go down the sideline or maybe be a red zone target. There's Deontay Johnson. You saw last year he came in as a rookie and runs great routes and comes out of breaks and is reliable in terms of getting open when you need him. JuJu Smith-Schuster, even last year, which was a way down year for him, he had a couple of huge plays. He's a big play guy. He can catch the ball and run a long way with it, and he's been monstrously productive previously in his career prior to last year. James Washington came on in the second half of the season and showed that he's a guy who's, as Mike Tomlin might say, whose arrow is pointing up. Now you work in, there comes Ryan Switzer. Is he a slot guy and a return guy? Is one of the new acquisitions, Ray McLeod, is he a slot guy and a return guy? A lot of different
Not to
options.
mention that guy, tight end Eric Ebron, also in the mix of adding something different to the Steelers' offense. Vance McDonald, of course, when healthy, we say that, but you know, somebody who's very close with Ben Roethlisberger on and off the field. So that group alone, just right there, that we are looking live at Heinz Field before practice starts at 1:30. I'm sure Randy Fichtner is fighting to keep a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think Ebron, everybody is probably aware that he's had some tremendous seasons in the NFL. I think it was 13 touchdowns a couple of years ago. But the Steelers keep talking about the impact he's going to have, not just in catches and yards and touchdowns, but how he's going to influence the defense. And will they be able to run two tight ends effectively, and if so, how much? Because when you can do that, as we have heard from multiple people this camp, that's when you keep the defense on its heels. It's not just putting two tight ends out there, because if you're a running team and they're just out there to block, you know that they're going to run. If they're receiving guys who just catch, you know the defense knows you're still going to throw. But having guys who you have to pay attention to in regard to not knowing quite what they're going to do, that keeps the defense off balance and gives the offense options.
Number 81, you see there's Zach Gentry entering his second year out of Michigan. Big Ten shout out for Prisuta, not the team he loves.
Yeah, that's not the one to shout out to me.
Yeah,
but, he appreciate the thought, if not the execution.
He got some additional reps on Friday night due to Vance McDonald, not being able to go. Another person mentioned, of course, was Devin Bush, and when we were broadcasting the practice live, the rain was coming down, and you just saw 55 flying everywhere.
Not to ignore that point, but look at the grin on Ebron's face here. It's just a simple warm-up drill. He's got a ball in his hand.
They said he's an energy bringer.
It's been apparent, has it not? I mean, we've talked to him on Zoom a couple times. You see him out here. You hear him up here. And we're sitting just, if people are aware of Heinz Field, we're below the Jumbotron. We got a nice little tent out on the deck here, but you can hear Ebron. And Devin Bush, he came up, his name came up again a lot today when we spoke with inside linebackers coach Jerry Olszewski. I still have in the back of my mind the point made by Vince Williams very early in the process. I think it was even before we were allowed to start coming here, but they were making some guys available when training camp started before they put the pads on. And Vince Williams emphasized that Devin Bush comes to work at the same time every day. And, it's a simple thing. Some people might think it's a meaningless thing. But to me, there's, again, consistency, right? You want to do things the same every day. Give yourself the best chance to succeed. And that's just one example of the professionalism, I think was Jerry O's word, the professionalism with which Devin Bush is approaching his second season. He had a lot of that last year, more than the average Bear in terms of rookies, but you can always build on it, Missi.
And do you know who came before him and started to do the exact same thing, was watching film with other defensive players, would sometimes watch with coaches, and was known for being in very early? I'll give you one guess. All right, I'll tell you. Okay. Ryan Shazier. You could, same time every day, he walked in the door, did the same things, watched the same amount of film. And
there was somebody to choose from.
I know.
I didn't know if you were throwing me a curveball, you were trying to come up with something funny.
No, it wasn't a joke. It was being real. And even Jerry O today, in his Zoom meeting with the media, said how much Ryan Shazier meant to Devin Bush during his rookie year. There's always the pressure when you're a first-round draft pick. You have somebody who went through the same thing. Oh, yeah, and by the way, everyone's saying you were drafted to replace Ryan Shazier.
Yeah, and, to that professionalism theme that we're hanging on Devin Bush, I can remember talking with him last year about that very subject you just mentioned. You're a first-round pick. They traded up to get you. There's a lot of pressure. And he said he never looked at it that way. He said he looked at it as having a job to do. And he had a physical skill set, which he knew. He knows he can run. He knows he can tackle. He knows he can do different things out there, football-like activities. And then they teach him what to do. And if you pay attention and learn what you're supposed to do and you have the physical wherewithal to do it, the rest kind of takes care of itself. But it is a process, particularly that learning part. You got to stay at that every day, too. And Devin Bush, I really liked his year last year. But I think he's capable of a whole lot more. Does that make any sense? I'm not trying to disparage in any way how well he played given last year's circumstances, but I think he was just scratching the surface.
All right, well, another person that Jerry O mentioned in his inside linebackers room today was Marcus Allen, who Coach had told us about last week. So let's take a listen to Jerry O, and then we'll go over to Tunchilkin.
I don't know what his personality is, okay, but he's a high-energy football playing son of a gun, some people would say, and that's what you like. I think that's probably why we drafted him. We thought, he played safety in college and things like that, but that's sometimes, I remember when I got in the league, they said it takes a couple years for some players to develop, and that's hopefully what we're seeing right now. We're going to see Marcus in his third year really develop into a real professional. I talked about Vince earlier as being professional, okay? Devin, as young as he is, does some very professional things on the field, and that's why he makes plays like that. Vince does professional things off the field. Marcus has a very professional attitude, okay, whereas he's going to go and run into people. And you can't have enough of those guys on the football team. I'm so happy to have them in my room. It's not even funny, and maybe that's where I get some of my energy from. But he's really I don't know if I've answered your question, but I gave you a lot of good words there.
All right, Tunch, that was Jerry O, and I want to bring Tunch Ilkin in because you know Jerry O very well, and he's talking about Marcus Allen. But let's first start with Jerry O and what a Jerry O meeting is probably like for those inside linebackers.
You know, Missi and Mikey, Jerry O and I played my last 4 years, and he was a very heady player. He was smart. He answered all the questions right, and he saw the field. And if I was Marcus Allen, I'd hang out with Jerry all the time. I'd ask him questions, and Jerry said that Marcus was professional, Devin was professional, Vince was professional, Jerry O's professional, and he loves to coach, he loves to mentor, he loves to tutor, and he loves to tell you what he sees on the field. So one of the things that is great about Jerry O, he gives you intuition. He gives you insight. He gives you a view of the offense, and you're better for it.
Tunch, one of the things that Jerry talked about with Marcus Allen was he likes to hit people.
Right.
Now, you would kind of think that's a given if you're a football player, but there are guys who like it more than other guys. Can you tell, does that, if you're a player or a coach, does that become apparent to you who really enjoys that?
Yeah. You know what? One of the things, Mikey, we love to hit. And so Marcus Allen, he breaks on the ball well. He covers the intersection well. He tackles well. And, when Jerry O said he loved to hit, I agree with that. He's very, very, very physical, and that's why they have him playing that position.
Tunch, Jerry O said he would not speculate who is going to have the green dot on defense on their helmet, meaning who is going to be communicating from the sideline to the field. He said that is a Coach Tomlin question. If you were in Coach Tomlin's position or whoever is going to make that, who do you think you would give the green dot to in 2 weeks from now for week one?
Well, I'd give it to Vince when he's on the field, and then I would give it to Devin when Vince is off the field, because Vince is a very smart player. He sees well with his eyes, and one of the things I told you last week, he anticipates well. He cheats over when he thinks that the play is coming his way, and he is a thumper. He attacks the offensive lineman, he attacks the fullback on ISOs, and he's a very, very physical player, and he's also smart. He's playing tackle to tackle, and Devin Bush is playing sideline to sideline, and I think they play well in unison together, and they complement each other. You were talking about Ryan Shazier, and Ryan Shazier and Vinny played well together. One of the things you guys were talking about, Ryan Shazier came in every day early to watch film, and on Thursdays I'd watch film with him, and I would ask him, Ryan, what are you seeing? What are you seeing? What are you looking at? And because I wanted to know defensive football better. I wanted to know what the linebackers are looking at. And one of the things that Ryan Shazier was so good at, and he was telling me what the play they were going to run and whether they were going to run or the pass. And I started looking like he did. And, I learned a lot from Ryan Shazier.
Tunch, one of the other things Jerry O talked about today was that sometimes it takes a player a couple, 3 years to kind of get it and fit in. And sometimes it takes a team a couple, 3 years to figure out where the guy should play. Do you see Marcus Allen's path to the field more clear at linebacker than it's been at safety?
Yeah, because, Mike, he is very versatile. He is lanky. He is sideline to sideline guy, and I think he's gonna make an impact on that position. One of the things we've noticed is linebackers are getting smaller and smaller. They're getting more lean. Because of the speed the game has, and the way they sideline to sideline. And so I think Marcus Allen is put in a good position, and he's going to be successful.
All right, Tunch, thank you as always for your time and your insight. Mike, let's stay with linebackers. This time we will move outside, and that is because we heard from outside linebacker Bud Dupree today, who jokingly said when asked, was there any discussion about a long-term contract before that July 15th deadline to play under the franchise tag? And he said, yeah, they offered me 2 years, $200 million, but I said give some money to Cam.
Yeah, he was close to taking it, but he wants to see Cam Hayward taken care of. I'm sure Cam appreciates that.
Bud, one of those guys I think we all definitely miss talking to in person and seeing because, he was joking that he couldn't see everybody at first on Zoom. He wanted to see everybody that was talking to him and then making the joke about the 2-year, $200 million deal. But, again, so important what him and T.J. Watt were able to do as a tandem last season, and a lot of that was Keith Butler, Mike Tomlin, everyone believing that Bud Dupree was going to be able to do that. And maybe some people didn't believe it at the time, but I think 2019 really proved that to the fact where if they did not keep him and did not tag him or did not make him a Steeler this year, I think the city would have got a little crazy.
Keith Butler may be the guy who believes in Bud Dupree more than anybody other than Bud Dupree. And, what Butler was envisioning came to pass. And that tandem was devastating last year, and I liked what Dupree talked about today, Missi. He's not necessarily interested in Watt and Dupree getting the franchise record for sacks by a pair or some other obscure record. The tone of Bud's remarks basically centered around, well, you can always do better. You always leave some sacks on the field. You always leave some big plays that you didn't make on the field. He just wants to keep getting better, keep getting better. Keep getting better. And T.J. Watt, there you see him engaging with Dupree, of a very similar mindset. We've seen it before in Steelers history, what can happen when you have two outside linebackers that play off one another and are both equally capable of, as T.J. Watt described it, wrecking a game.
And Bud Dupree echoing what we heard from T.J. Watt of Alex Highsmith, even Ola Adeni, who Steelers fans will remember from previous years as guys who they are hoping can help step in. So if they need a break, they can take a break because being as fresh as possible when those two are out on the field is very important for the Steelers defense. So again, we talked about Chase Claypool being mentioned, Alex Highsmith, another rookie who is continuing to earn the praise of guys like Bud Dupree.
Yeah, and that's been pretty consistent as well. Dupree has missed a little time. I would have to say that Alex Highsmith is one of the ongoing themes of this training camp, such that it is. And what you're really after there, Missi, you want to get Dupree and Watt enough snaps off that they are fresh at the end of the game, when hopefully the Steelers offense will have established a lead and the Steelers defense knows the other team is going to pass, and now it's time to just assault the pocket, and hopefully those guys are fresh at the end of the game. We've asked both Bud Dupree and T.J. Watt, okay, how many snaps is that? What can Alex Highsmith be expected to handle? And nobody got real specific about it, but both Watt and Dupree have acknowledged, hey, they can't play every snap. It's hard rushing the passer, and when they're tired, they're fine coming out as long as there is somebody that can take their place and be impactful. And knock on wood, Alex Highsmith could be that guy for the Steelers. It's going to be harder to get a read on that without any preseason games, but then again, the preseason games only tell you so much as well. I think with most rookies, you got to wait until they're into the regular season before you can really tell if they're going to be impact guys or not. Usually they're not. Sometimes they are. Steelers might have found two of them, Missi.
All right, and in terms of TJ and Bud, we have heard from TJ himself and also Coach Tomlin when they're not going through individuals like they are right now or in a team period. If it's special teams, those two guys are always off to the side doing something together, whether it's working on their hands or whatnot. One cool thing we did see.
Whatnot? I see what
you like
you
what I did there?
Yeah.
In terms of TJ Watt, following Friday night's practice, it made it into the practice report, so we can report this, Prisuta. But up here from our vantage point, we can see the whole field. And after practice, TJ was out there with brother Derek, working with strength and conditioning coach Marcel Pastor. And we had a chance to hear from Derek Watt this weekend to talk about that and much more.
But so it was just a play in a team period. Yeah, I just said it wasn't my true responsibility to block him. It was more of getting a little chip on him so that I think Banner was the tackle at the time, just kind of helping out in protection and getting out to my route. So it was just something small. I don't even think he really was focused on me as much as he was Banner, but just gave him a little chip and tried to get out to the flat. But and then in terms of I played JJ last year and got a little chip on him. Kind of a very similar play, I would say. Got a little shot on him, but other than that, I really haven't had to, especially in a game setting, have too many encounters with them. And, there'll be plenty more with TJ, I'm sure, as we get going. Yeah, so this is our third time being able to play together on the same team. We did both in high school, college, and now here. And it's awesome. Just being able to see a familiar face. I mean, we eat breakfast with each other every morning. And just seeing a familiar face out on the practice field. And, we were talking last night, it's just that we got a little work in after practice last night. It was just like the old days, just things that we've always done throughout our whole life. And we're only 2 years apart. So we shared a room growing up. We obviously played all these sports together in the backyard. And now on this level is just something truly special. And in terms of off the field, yeah, we do live close to each other, and it's great for us. I used to be on the other side of the country, so now we get to see each other all the time, and he gets to see, hang out with my wife and my son, and he's loving being an uncle that's able to be there and constantly have time with Logan. And I know JJ is very jealous of that, and TJ's making it, sending as many videos and trying to make him jealous because he's trying to win that favorite uncle title.
All right, some brotherly love there. Bringing in now Craig Wolfley. I imagine you and your brother had the same sort of affection for each other, right?
No question about it, Missy. One of the beautiful things when you have a brother is the brotherly love. And, my brother Ronnie was a 10-year NFL veteran, played for the Cardinals, 4-time Pro Bowler, a special teams crasher, a fullback like Derek Watt. The thing about him was, when he was younger, I got the bit of bing him a lot. You know what I mean? Give him the razzle-dazzle stuff, right? But when he grew up, then things even out a little bit. And so, fortunately, even though we played against each other a couple times, that is our teams, we never met head-to-head because I'd hate to have him have to exact some little brother revenge love. You know what I mean?
Now, we've seen them on Friday. They went against each other during a competition period. As I said, they worked together off the field as well. So what do you think this experience has been like, and how can they help each other?
Well, I think it's a fantastic experience to be with your brother who you've been with in high school and college and now in the pros. And as we've always said, the only thing better than 1 watt on your team is 2 watts, right? And 2 would be 3 if we get JJ up here. But the fact is, they can push each other because they're brothers. There's a natural love bond that goes with it. And, you just say, hey, how you doing? You might say, I'm a little bit down. Pick it up. Let's go. Come on. And that's one of those things that naturally occurs between brothers. And also when you see them working together. Now, Derek has got to come out. He's got a little chip on brother TJ, right? Well, he's not going to, put the full chip on him. He's going to probably give him a wink or something, but he's going to do something that will acknowledge, here I come, and TJ is going to be able to use that to his benefit, and then Derek is going to be able to use it to his benefit when they do maybe a little one-on-ones after practice. But again, it's about that keeping the sword sharp, keeping your brother ready to go, and there's nothing wrong with having a little bit of brotherly love going at it.
Yeah, I would think, Wolf, just that little chip thing, he probably really enjoys that because you just irritate him a little bit. You know what I mean?
Right.
Hey, you're not really trying to block me. I'm just kind of taking a shot at you and then going out into my route here, and there's nothing you can do about it. So it'll be like that mosquito just flying around your head.
Yeah, that net that keeps bothering you. Look, TJ's got to come off the ball. He's looking at Zach Banner. That's a lot of man to look at, right? So then all of a sudden you got Derek kind of coming out. You don't know, is he releasing on a wheel route, or is he going to chip, and all of a sudden he squats real quick to give a chip. And you could give him a little smack in the grill, a little bit of a little uppercut to the throat, just a little tap, nothing big, just one of those things that you're doing. The thing about it is, everybody wants to push each other and make each other better, and nobody wants to push each other and make each other better than 2 brothers.
All right, well, talking specifically about Derek, I don't want to say Watt and confuse anybody here, but what do you see him bringing to the offense and also to special teams? Everyone's very excited and has talked about that since the Steelers have signed him and since we've had a chance to see him here at practice, but no one is saying specifically what he is going to do.
Well, he's a one-footed takeoff fullback, which is great because you hate to have those fullbacks that are squatters. They come up the hole, then they squat and stop, and then they restart. He's a one-foot takeoff artist. He's going to come and try to dig you out like a tick buried on a hound. You want to dig him out. He wants to dig those linebackers out. And the thing about him, he's a member, I would say a member of good standing of the Flat Nose Society. Now, the Flat Nose Society is a big forehead, got the nose that's probably been broken a time or two. Because why? You lead with your chin. You lead straight on, and you put the bang on him. He's not afraid to put his grill in the grill of another man, and he does so whether it's at fullback or on the special teams from what I've seen and what I've heard and what I've been told. You talk to Danny Smith, you talk to any of the coaches, his reputation around the league is one such of, he's one of those guys going to bring the big bang. With a last name like Watt, how else could he be anything but that, right? So the fact of the matter is, I think he's going to be one of those guys that he's got a little bit offensive upside over Rosie Nix. You always took a deep breath when Rosie was getting the ball thrown to him or handoff. And I love the guy, and I'll not bag on him because Rosie was an excellent player, but Derek's got better offensive skills than Rosie did.
He's also got the special team street cred, Wolf, and
right.
You mentioned your brother's prowess in that department. This year, we saw live tackling on a kickoff return drill last week. I'd never seen that before, but this is what you got to do to get special teams ready. Two-parter for you. Do you see special teams being more volatile than any other aspect of the game, at least in the early going in September? And does that make it all the more critical to have the Derek Watts around that know what they're doing?
I think you're right on both accounts. Look, you don't know what you don't know, and what you don't know is the fact of what these guys can do on the special teams. But you do know what a Derek Watt can bring. And Derek Watt's going to bring a lot of veteran leadership to that, whether it's a kickoff return, punt return, what have you. And he's going to be one of those guys that excels, gets to the ball, brings down the ball carrier, or makes the block that you need. This is a guy that he's a known quantity. The rest of them, you got to fill in and be able to get the job done with who you think can get the job done. Probably, I would suspect, you're going to have more veterans than not manning those posts than the young guys for Danny Smith.
All right, well, thanks as always for your time. We really appreciate it. We are taking a live look at the Steelers running backs, still in the individual warm-up portion of practice. And, Mike, just to recap, some guys who are practicing and not practicing today for those who might have joined us just a little bit late. In terms of running backs, Anthony McFarland, who was previously in the concussion protocol, is not dressed to practice today. There you see number 26 with the face mask on, no pads on. He is out there, though, so we'll have to get an update from Coach Tomlin. Dave DeCastro, I keep turning around. I have not been able to spot him out here on the practice field, whether in uniform or not. Also, Cam Canada does not appear like he is going, no pads on for him, but some good news of guys who have their pads on and are out here during the individual warm-up phase: Deontay Johnson, Terrell Edmonds, Ryan Switzer, Vance McDonald, and Chris Wormley. So again, we are in that final push before the practices for week 1. This is still considered training camp here at Heinz Field, but a little bumps and bruises could mean a roster spot or maybe a depth chart move and whatnot. So a lot for the Steelers to try to sort out in their final week of training camp. Again, it's crazy to say, but 2 weeks from today, the Steelers will be facing the New York Giants on Monday Night Football for week 1, the New York Football Giants.
Thank you.
Sorry, but that's where we're at. It's a crazy process, but it's go time, and the train is it's picking up some speed, I feel.
Yeah, it is lurching out of the station, and it better be at full speed on September the 14th. The David DeCastro situation bears monitoring, as a former coach here might say. If you weren't with us right at the top of the show, we mentioned DeCastro leaving Friday's practice, which was a mock road game. He left early. Mike Tomlin only said at that point DeCastro was being evaluated. And, Missi, I think it's worth noting that when David DeCastro wasn't practicing previously in camp, we had seen him out on the field, seen him enough to detail his wardrobe down to the color of his socks. So stay tuned on the status of number 66.
Yeah, that's one that I think in there we're taking a live look now at the offensive line. We talked about number 69 offensive lineman, the rookie Kevin Dotson, who saw some increased opportunities on Friday night, but he's dealt with his fair share of injuries too and missing time as a young guy. So Stefan Wisniewski, somebody else we heard from Zoom before Friday night's practice, who said, I am the backup guard, I'm the backup center, and said, I'm willing to do whatever I need to do. He's helping young guys. He's still new to this team, but obviously very familiar with playing offensive line in Super Bowls. Yeah,
two of the last 3 Super Bowl winners. He's been a part of that group as a starting player, and a guy who knows those interior positions well. That is an option, but that's also a valuable guy to have on game day when you don't know what might happen and who might not be available, and you got to throw somebody into the mix midway through the second quarter or at the start of the fourth quarter when you're down 3.
All right, well, that was the horn. That means we are no longer allowed to show you what is happening down on the field. But again, just to quickly recap, no Dave DeCastro, Anthony McFarland not in pads today. Same with Cam Canada. But the good news, Deontay Johnson, Terrell Edmonds, Ryan Switzer, Vance McDonald, and Chris Wormley all with pads on. Of course, Coach Tomlin will be speaking after practice, and then we'll have the training camp wrap-up show to recap everything that happened throughout the day from here at Heinz Field. So that is the very latest. Thanks for joining us. For Mike Prisuta, I'm Missi Matthews. We'll see everybody on Wednesday.